Jim is going to start here.
Hi everybody, thanks very much for showing up. My name is Jim Lorimer. I'm really happy to be the publisher of John's latest and greatest book, which we're here to celebrate tonight. It was an incredible experience, first of all, for those of us who were around during the period of time that the book deals with. It was an incredible experience, although I think many of us didn't really realize what an experience it was until we looked back. So the experience of being involved in the period of time when Toronto was going through its dramatic reform in 1969 to 1980, it was an amazing thing for all of us who were involved. It was amazing for the people in Toronto to see that so much change could happen in such a creative and productive way. But then the experience of reliving this and of working with John while he went and sought out so many of the people who were involved in that experience, on every side too, not to leave anybody out if they were still alive and well and willing to talk, was a great thing too. And it's been a real pleasure to work with John through the process of turning the idea. It was John's idea to do this, John's energy that carried it through, and John's fantastic willingness to just devote all the energy that it takes to get a story put together. It was John that made this happen. And I'm very glad to have worked on the book with him. And I hope that you all feel the way about it that I do, which is that when you read this, it's hard to believe that the things that it describes actually happen. It's hard to believe that so many people can be involved in a not necessarily unconflictual. Sure, there was lots of conflict. There was, as John acknowledges, as you'll see in the book, but nevertheless, the process was a very positive and creative one for the city, and set up ideas that have had power that lasts to this day here and in the rest of Canada and in other places in the world too. And to see the people who, like me, were part of the process and what it was possible for so many of those people to do in their later lives and their careers is also another thing that you just see hints of it in the book, but I think that you'll find it amazing to see that experience of those years spawned. So I'm very, very happy to introduce to you the author of the book tonight, John Sewell.
Thank you, Jim. I should first say the reason why I invited you to this particular location, 366 Queen Street East. It's a very famous building. It used to be the Federal Mattress Company until it was converted into this bar in the last year or two. But in fact, above it is an apartment, and Wolf and I lived in that apartment in 1967 and 1968. Anyway, so when Liz and I were looking for a place to hold it, we thought this has got to be the right place. I wanted to thank particularly my editor, Doris Cowan, who is not here. She was somebody who was recommended to Jim and I, and we worked with her, and she turned out to be absolutely terrific in helping me to get the stories in order. What I realized is I've got probably 3 times as many stories about this period as are in the book. But she helped me filter them out, arrange them, and she was absolutely terrific in making it work. I'm also delighted there are so many people here who in fact I interviewed and talked to, not only David Crombie, but Ron Siscolny, Howard Cullen, Wolf is here, Dennis Wood is here, he was the lawyer who took the case of the Dundas Sherburne at the OMB. It was his very first case he ever took, and just out of law school, and he won it, and that happened, of course, the Dundas Sherburne area to be the very first housing project that the city undertook in 1973. So anyway, and there's many others who are here who are noted in the book, and I'm delighted at that. I tell a lot of stories that I had almost forgotten about in the book. I came across them in studying and looking at them. I had forgotten all the details about south of St. Jamestown. and the fact that I rented 20 houses from a developer, and we fixed them up with the help of John Whitelaw, and ran just a spectacular group of houses until the developer said, sorry, I want to tear them down, and he sued me for $500,000 and went to court. It was a long, involved process. I managed to win at the trial stage, and it got appealed, and I won there. And then it went to the Supreme Court of Canada. And literally an hour before I was inaugurated as mayor, word came down from Ottawa that the Supreme Court of Canada had refused the appeal. Yeah! It worked. It was really terrific. So that's the story. I tell the story about the Toronto Islands, and I know there's people here from the islands, and what a fight that was. And I took the matter to Metro Council, which everybody said was foolish, you could always lose it there. And in fact, we did lose the vote to save the island at Metro Council, 17-16. Closest that anybody had ever thought we could come. And it got the provincial government so interested that it thought it's got to step in to do something. And it said, what we want to do is we want to appoint a commission of 5 people that will in fact sort out what happens to the islands. And so we assumed, okay, they want 2 people from Toronto, 2 people from Metro, and an independent chair. Probably the people they want from Toronto is somebody from the island, somebody from City Council. And we in our office, and that was Lynn Speak, I think she's probably here tonight too. There she is right there. And Dan Leckie, we said, let's do something really spectacular in terms of appointing people to that commission. So I phoned up Gunter Plout, Rabbi Gunter Plout, Holy Blossom, and said, would you be willing to be the city's representative on this commission about the island? I didn't ask him what his position was. I said, would you do it? Of course, he said. And then I phoned up Isabel Bassett, who was then working for TVO. Will you represent the city? Of course, she said. And so I had these 2 wild people to represent the city. And when Tom Wells, the minister, phoned up and he said, well, John, who are you going to recommend to sit on the commission? I said, Gunter Plout, Isabel Bassett. Oh my God, he said. He abandoned the idea of having a commission and instead appointed Barry Swadron, who wrote the report, and the island is now saved. So, anyway. And I also tell the story of the shooting of Albert Johnson by the police. He was a black man who was mentally ill. And I go through all the stuff, the extraordinary stories that happen and how they badmouth me beyond belief for attacking the police. And they appointed Cardinal Carter, who was going to sort out everything. And Cardinal Carter, among other things, one of his recommendations was the chief of police had to tell his officers that they couldn't call black people niggers. This is 1980. Unbelievable. Anyway, I quote extensively from his report, which you will not believe. And of course, the other thing is, I say, hey, the issues we were fighting back then, they're still the same. They haven't changed at all. Anyway, so there's a bunch of stories like that. I hope you'll enjoy reading them. I had a terrific time reliving my past. And it's really good to be back here again, close to my original apartment. Anyway, so thank you very much. I will continue signing books over here as quickly as I can, okay?